G'day, welcome back. I just want to start with a simple question. When you spend your money, do you ever stop to think where that money actually goes? Not just what you buy and what happens in the transaction, but after that, who touches it, who takes a piece of it, and whether or not it really comes back. Most of us today are just simple swipe a card, tap a phone, click a button without thinking twice. Debit cards feel clean, fast, modern. Cash feels old school and maybe even inconvenient. But right now, I'd like to make the case that it still has real, powerful advantages, not just for individuals, but for whole communities and the entire economy. One of the biggest reasons comes down to a simple idea. Cash circulates. Debit cards siphon. I want to explain that. When you use cash, a very straightforward thing happens. You give money to someone, they receive the exact same amount of money. No middleman, no percentage shaved off, no invisible toll booths. Let's say I had a local cafe and someone gives me $20. I get $20. It's honest that way. I can use that money to pay a supplier or employee or another local business or anybody. It's what you spend on is what they receive. With debit cards, you can't say the same thing. Every time you swipe, there's a small fee, 1%, 2%, maybe more, maybe less, but it doesn't sound like much, but it's constant and unavoidable. And importantly, the money doesn't stay in your local community. It leaves. It goes to whoever owns the bank. Here's an analogy I want you to picture. Imagine your local economy as a closed loop system, like a pond. Not a river, just a pond, a billabong. Cash is like the water that stays in that pond. If I pay you in cash, then you can pay someone else in cash, and then they can pay somebody else in cash. That same dollar stays in the pond, moving around the community or the pond, supporting jobs, businesses, and the families within the environment. Now, every time that water moves, someone scoops a little bit out. That's what debit card fees do. Every swipe takes a small scoop. The bank takes a cut, the card provider takes a cut, the payment processor takes a cut, and that money just doesn't come back. Your $20 is not $20 anymore, and it's flown out of the pond forever. So, of course, the pond is going to shrink. Now, importantly, this is not a conspiracy theory, and the banks won't end up with all of the money, although they'd like to try with the amount of billions they're making every year. Well, the effect is real. Wealth using a debit card concentrates upwards. Local circulation, it'll slow down because there's less money circulating, and small businesses feel it as a squeeze because people have less money to give you. Cash keeps the money moving horizontally. Debit cards push money up and out. So let's talk about small businesses for a sec. Big corporations negotiate a lower card fee. Small businesses can't. So when you pay with a debit card at the local shop, the shop loses some of the sale. They're still paying their rent in full, their employees, their utilities, all of their income tax and GSTs and stuff. But now they've got this little silent partner over on the side there called the financial system, and they're taking a tiny little extra tax. So for a business that runs on thin margins, like your local IGA and places like that, those fees can be the difference between making a profit or a loss, keeping or laying off staff, or even the difference between staying open and maybe closing. So when you pay with cash, you're effectively giving that business a tiny little raise. No paperwork, no speeches, just value staying where it was created and not by somebody else. And the next benefit of cash is the psychological benefit. So cash makes money real and tangent, and it's physically in your hand. When you hand over your bills, you feel it and you see it leave your wallet. Buy once, cry once is probably the term that used to be around. Studies consistently show that people spend less money when it's cash to cards, not because cash is restrictive, because it's tangible. You see it going and you see what you've got is less and less and less. Debit cards blur that line a little bit. It's easy to spend. Some of the debit cards have got credit facilities attached, so if you overspend, it doesn't matter. Cash restores that. It encourages you to budget, and you have to make intentional choices. You can't just go, oh, it's only a couple of bucks. Bang, bang, bang. Look at your statement end of the month. Where'd my money go? In cash, you're looking at your wallet and you're seeing the wallet get thinner and thinner. So it introduces some financial discipline to you. We've become a world of impulse spending, and cash is a natural speed bump to that. And sometimes that's a really good thing. Every debit card transaction creates a record. What you bought, where you bought it, when you bought it, how often you bought it, all that data is stored and analysed by somebody. And sometimes all that data is even sold to other people so they can send you advertising. Cash doesn't do that. Cash doesn't track you, doesn't give you a profile. It doesn't decide whether the transaction is allowed or moral and can't be used to create a credit score. Using cash preserves a small but meaningful amount of financial privacy and your personal autonomy. Whether or not you're worried about surveillance, diversity, or options matters and all of that sort of stuff, a system where only digital money exists is very fragile, especially for the end consumer. If you use your card regularly, tap on, tap off the buses, because you can't use cash, cash is still a good backup for everything else. It's a safety valve. We've all seen how Optus went down, so your bank doesn't work. Telstra goes down, the bank doesn't work, the bank goes down, loses all your money. You can't buy food that night to take home for dinner. I mean, cash is a great backup. Always hand it, always carry a little bit of cash, even if you are a digital person and you believe in the digital world. When it circulates locally as well, communities are more resilient because they get to keep their money. That little bit of extra money supports local jobs, local supply chains, local relationships between people, and it keeps the value closer to home. Knowing that your money is just off in a bank somewhere and then you bring it over and they pass it over to their bank and no one actually ever sees this money anymore is a bit of it's a worry. Anyway, and during emergencies, cash still works, debit cards don't. Because you don't need internet, you don't need any servers, you don't need approvals through the bank lender. It's low tech, but that's not a weakness. It is definitely a feature. Obviously, debit cards are convenient. They're fast, they're easy. The banks all make those ads about, blip, 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 and then someone comes up with cash and it slows the whole process up. That's a true and valid point. I'm not talking about getting rid of cards entirely. I'm just saying we need a balance. You need to think about not always using the card, but using cash to keep the cash ticking over. The banks and the government want you to remove the cash and only use cards or your phone because they can have control, and at the end of the day, they will run a credit score from it. It's all about balance. Using cash intentionally into your small businesses, for local services, those little everyday purchases, your coffee and your lunch, maybe your fuel on the way home. It's a ripple effect way beyond the transaction itself. The convenience should not be the only reason we use a debit card. Anyway, if you've been here this long, thank you, firstly. Think about please liking and subscribing and doing all those things, because if you like my content, please spread it around so other people can see it It helps me grow my channel, and it helps you because I can make more content like this. But anyway, I'd just like to close now. To bring this home, cash keeps money circulating, reduces the hidden extraction fees, supports the small businesses, encourages mindful spending, preserves your privacy, and strengthens the local community. Debit cards, on the other hand, while they're pretty useful, I mean, they quietly remove the value from the system and give it to the large corporations. And every single time they're used, it's not a dramatic change. It's not all at once, but it's a consistent change, and they're slowly draining the little pond. So the next time you reach for your wallet, remember, when you use cash, the money stays in the system. When you swipe, a little bit leaks out. And over time, those little leaks add up. Cash isn't outdated. It's grounded. It's local. It's resilient. It still matters. Well, that's all I got for today. Please stay safe out there, and thanks for watching.